English Easy Podcast.
Hello, learners. Welcome back to English Easy Podcast, your partner to learning English.
So glad to be here.
I want you to picture this. It is a beautiful Sunday afternoon. You are lying on the couch,
Yeah.
right? Your body is resting. The house is totally quiet, but your heart is just racing.
Oh, yeah. The Sunday dread.
Exactly. And why? Because your brain is already aggressively drafting tomorrow morning's emails in English, and you are terrified of making a grammatical mistake.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It really is. Like, why does learning a new language so often feel like carrying a 50-pound backpack everywhere you go? So today we are doing a deep dive into the psychology of language learning.
A very necessary deep dive, I'd say.
Definitely. We are unpacking how managing your internal anxiety can fundamentally alter how your brain actually absorbs vocabulary. We're stopping the spiral.
Because, honestly, it is a complete cognitive shift. We spend, so much time focusing on the mechanical structures of English.
Right, like the syntax, the verb conjugations, spelling rules.
Exactly. But all of that mechanical effort is, well, it's practically useless if your nervous system is in a constant state of perceived threat.
So the emotional barrier is the actual bottleneck to fluency.
100%. It's the biggest wall in your way.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because there is a very specific mechanism driving that feeling of dread, right?
Yeah, it really comes down to this concept of dwelling on negative thoughts.
Like when you mess up a word in a meeting.
Yes. Picture that scenario. You are in a meeting, you try to contribute an idea, and you use the wrong tense. A minor error.
But instead of letting it go, you just dwell on it.
Right. You sit on that memory, you play it on a loop for the rest of the afternoon, basically reinforcing this idea that you are failing.
And that right there is the invisible heavy backpack we strap onto our chests.
And the worst part, we often add like 10 more pounds to that backpack the very second we wake up.
Oh, wait, how do we do that?
Consider the modern morning routine. You open your eyes, you grab your phone, and immediately scroll through social media.
Oh, guilty as charged?
Right. And you see an influencer speaking flawless English, or you read some harsh news headline. You are intentionally feeding your brain a sad breakfast.
A sad breakfast for the brain. Wow. That paints such a vivid picture.
It's not a great way to start the day.
Definitely not. I mean, if you view the mind as the plot of soil, like a garden, whatever you plant first thing in the morning dictates the ecosystem for the rest of the day.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
Right. So if you do not actively choose to plant positive seeds, like a simple thought of gratitude or just acknowledging 3 new words you learned yesterday, the wild weeds of self-doubt will just take over.
Because you never have to water weeds. They just aggressively grow on their own.
But wait, I have to challenge this a bit.
Go for it.
If I am completely lost trying to understand a complex grammar rule, I can't just forcefully plant happy seed.
No, of course not.
Right, like if someone is sitting at their desk genuinely struggling, feeling totally inadequate, telling them to just be happy feels a bit like toxic positivity.
What's fascinating here is that applied positive psychology does not ask you to magically cure your frustration.
So I don't have to fake a smile.
Definitely not. Forcing a smile when you feel inadequate is entirely counterproductive. You cannot always regulate your emotional state through sheer willpower.
That is a relief to hear, honestly.
But here is the trick. You can short-circuit the neurological loop by changing your immediate physical environment for the next 5 minutes.
Short-circuiting, like cutting the power to a faulty machine to stop it from sparking.
That is the exact mechanism. When you are deep in that dark tunnel of frustration, your habitual pattern is to just stare harder at the textbook, hoping the confusion breaks.
Which never works, by the way.
Never. So to short-circuit that, you must force a physical redirect. You stand up, you open a window and feel the temperature change on your skin.
Or maybe put on one single upbeat song.
Yes. Or take a 10-minute walk around the block. You are not solving the grammar problem, but you are hitting a physiological reset button on your nervous system.
Okay, I love that. But even if you manage to short-circuit that immediate panic attack by opening a window, your body still holds on to the deeper stress, right?
Well, yes, chronic stress is a different beast.
Because you cannot just take a 5-minute walk to cure the overarching fear that you are never going to be fluent, or that constant feeling of just trying to keep your head above water.
Right, and this is where we have to transition from short-term emergency resets to long-term cognitive management.
How do we do that?
Well, chronic anxiety thrives on vague, unexamined fears. So to dismantle that, there is a highly effective exercise known as the two circles.
The two circles. Okay, grab a pen, everyone.
Yes, literally take a physical piece of paper and draw a smaller circle inside of a larger circle.
Inner circle and outer circle. Got it.
The inner circle contains only the elements you have absolute direct control over. The outer circle contains everything you cannot control.
Let's actually map this out with a real-world scenario so we can see how the sorting works.
Great idea. Give me a scenario.
Let's say I completely froze up and lost my words during an English presentation at work yesterday, and now I am terrified of my next meeting.
Okay, let's categorize the elements of that fear. What goes in the outer circle, the things you cannot control?
Well, I can't control what my boss thought of me when I froze.
Exactly. You cannot control your colleagues' internal opinions of you. You cannot control the inherent difficulty of the English language.
And I guess I can't control the fact that the mistake already happened yesterday. It is in the past.
Precisely. So what is left for the inner circle, the things you can control?
I can control taking 3 deep breaths before I speak next time.
Yes. You can control reviewing your vocabulary flashcards for 10 minutes tonight.
I can control writing down bullet points so I don't lose my train of thought.
Perfect. And when you map out anxieties like this, a profound realization occurs. Roughly 90% of the emotional energy you are burning is trapped in the outer, uncontrollable circle.
90%. That is wild. It is the cognitive equivalent of trying to yell at the rain to stop falling.
It is exhausting and entirely ineffective.
So do we just pretend the outer circle doesn't exist?
Not at all. Ignoring it creates suppression, which usually makes the anxiety much worse.
So what's the rule then?
The psychological rule here is that you are fully permitted to notice the fears in the outer circle.
Like, I can acknowledge I'm worried about my boss's opinion.
Yes. But you are not allowed to reside there for an hour. You must consciously shift your cognitive focus back to the inner circle.
It is like dragging your brain out of a chaotic, loud, noisy street and forcing it to sit in a quiet park.
I love that analogy. And entering that quiet park requires a deliberate action. You pick one micro action from your inner circle.
Like drinking a glass of cold water.
Or doing a 2-minute visualization where you picture a calm forest or a quiet beach.
Okay, but does picturing a quiet beach actually move the needle on someone's ability to learn English, though?
It really does, actually.
Because it sounds relaxing, but it feels pretty disconnected from the hard work of memorization.
I get why you'd think that. But it is deeply connected to the biological prerequisites of learning.
Biological prerequisite.
Yeah. When you shift your focus to a controllable, calming visualization, you are practicing what we call quiet courage.
Quiet courage. I like the sound of that.
You are sending a biological signal to your nervous system that the environment is safe. Constant worrying burns immense amounts of cognitive fuel.
So it's basically draining my battery before I even open the textbook.
Exactly. By visiting that mental beach, you lower your cortisol levels. You are freeing up the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for complex learning.
So it actually has the physiological capacity to absorb the vocabulary when you return to studying.
You've got it. Establishing that biological calm is literally the prerequisite for your brain to absorb a new verb.
Which brings us to the actual action of studying. Once the panic is paused, how do we start moving forward without accidentally triggering that anxiety all over again?
That is the tricky part, isn't it?
Yeah, because it seems like the moment we set a goal, the pressure returns.
Well, goal setting is notoriously double-edged. It provides a destination, but the way most people set goals creates a massive vulnerability to chronic stress.
Oh, I see this constantly with language learners. They set these massive, incredibly vague goals.
Like what?
Like, I need to be completely fluent by next year. Or, I should be able to watch complex movies without subtitles by December.
Those aren't really goals. They are just heavy expectations that attack you every time you struggle.
And it triggers this vicious grass is greener syndrome.
Oh, absolutely.
You scroll through an online forum, you see other learners who seem to be progressing effortlessly, their grass looks incredibly green, and you feel entirely inadequate.
Which is a fundamental attribution error. You are comparing your messy, behind-the-scenes reality to their carefully curated highlight reel.
Right. So how do we fix it?
To dismantle this, we must completely abandon those punishing macro goals and implement a framework of goals that are clear and kind.
A clear and kind goal, meaning it is specific enough that you know exactly what to do, but gentle enough that it doesn't cause a spike in cortisol.
Exactly the right balance. Rather than saying become fluent, The framework asks you to set 3 microscopic daily intentions:
Okay, what are the categories?
health, work or mind, and heart.
So for health, a clear and kind goal isn't trained for a marathon. It is simply, I will walk outside for 20 minutes after dinner to clear my head.
Perfect. And for work or mind, it is not study grammar for 3 hours.
Thank goodness.
Right. It is, I will spend exactly 20 minutes engaged in a self-guided English exercise. No requirement to be perfect, just 20 minutes of exposure.
And for the hard category, I will send one thoughtful text message to a friend to maintain my social connection.
Yes, keep it simple.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If a learner looks at those 3 tiny goals, they might think walking and sending a text message is not going to make me fluent in English.
They probably will think that.
But it operates exactly like driving a car at night in heavy fog.
Oh, I love this metaphor.
Those small, clear, kind goals are your headlights. The headlights do not illuminate the entire 100-mile highway to fluency. They don't magically clear the fog.
But they show you the next 3 meters.
Exactly. And eliminating the next 3 meters is all your brain needs to feel safe enough to keep the car moving forward.
And moving forward a few meters every single day builds a profound psychological asset, which is self-trust.
Self-trust, that's huge.
When you consistently meet those tiny goals, your brain begins to trust that you will actually show up for yourself.
And that internal trust is a far more resilient motivator than some vague desire to be fluent in the future.
Absolutely.
That consistency builds an incredible foundation. But let's be entirely realistic about the human experience.
Let's do it.
Sometimes the fog doesn't lift. Sometimes you hit a wall of absolute burnout, or a major life crisis derails you.
It happens to everyone.
Right, and even walking for 20 minutes feels like trying to climb a mountain. How do we process those moments of severe roadblock without completely giving up on learning?
This is a vital distinction to make. When you face a genuine, heavy, emotional roadblock, the natural instinct is to retreat to your bed and isolate yourself.
And just overthink everything.
Yes, endlessly analyzing the problem in your head. This is called brooding. And brooding feels exactly like wearing heavy, freezing wet clothes all day.
Ugh, wow. Yeah, that sounds awful.
It is. The longer you sit in those wet clothes, the colder, heavier, and more exhausted you become.
So you cannot simply think your way out of physical and emotional exhaustion.
No, you cannot. You have to live your way through it.
Live your way through it. What does that look like?
It means completely abandoning the complex tasks and returning to the absolute baseline of human maintenance.
Just the basics.
Exactly. You force yourself to take a hot shower, you eat a nutritious meal, you move your body, you strip away all expectations of productivity, and you just execute basic care until the nervous system stabilizes.
And once that baseline is reestablished, and you are ready to actually look at the language learning roadblock again, there's a brilliant trick to use.
Yes, using English to actually process the emotion.
It is the one-sentence problem-solving technique. When your mind is a tornado of worries, you take a physical pen and paper and you write, "The problem is," and you force yourself to define the obstacle in one single, simple sentence.
The constraint of a single sentence is what makes it powerful.
It stops the spiral.
Yes. It forces your brain to cut through the swirling emotional noise and identify the core issue. Instead of a whole paragraph of panic, you distill it.
So you write, "The problem is I am terrified of speaking English in front of my senior managers."
Or, the problem is I feel completely isolated trying to study this language alone in my apartment.
And once you have that one sentence, the next step is to list 3 tiny, low-stakes actions you can take this week to slowly work through it.
Right. So if the problem is isolation, action 1 might be searching for a casual English forum online.
Action 2 might be taking your textbook to a local coffee shop just to study around other humans.
And action 3 might be leaving one encouraging comment on another learner's post.
Notice this shift in identity there. You transition from being a passive victim of a massive problem to an active participant navigating a challenge step by step.
You are taking back control.
Exactly. Taking those tiny physical actions forces your brain out of its internal loop. And to demonstrate how physical action changes your mental state, let's actually practice right now.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
We are going to take the psychological concepts we have explored today and anchor them with spoken English. I want you, yes, you listening on your commute or while cooking dinner, to physically speak out loud with us. Let's build that muscle memory together.
I love this. Let's do it.
When you get trapped replaying a mistake over and over again, we call that dwelling on it. Try saying it with me out loud. Dwell on. I'll give you a second to say it.
Dwell on. Take a beat and really say it.
Notice how the physical vibration of speaking interrupts your internal silence.
It really does. Now, when that dwelling speeds up and those small worries start getting bigger and entirely out of control in your mind, you're spiraling. Give it a try. Spiraling. Go ahead.
Spiraling. Say it out loud.
Excellent.
And think of that heavy feeling when you are profoundly bored, trapped in a repeating cycle where every day feels exactly the same and you aren't making progress. The phrase is, stuck in a rut. Your turn.
Stuck in a rut. Hope you said it.
I'm sure they did.
Conversely, when you are in a highly stressful situation, just managing to survive the pressure, trying very hard not to drown in the workload, the phrase is, keep your head above water. Try it out.
Keep your head above water.
Such a useful idiom.
It is. Now, when you go through that hardship, but you slowly recover your strength, regain your confidence, and return to your normal self, you bounce back. Let's hear it.
Bounce back. Say it with confidence.
Nice.
This next one is an idiom reminding us that outside appearances often hide complicated realities, that the influencers on social media don't have perfect lives either. The phrase is, the grass isn't always greener. Go ahead.
The grass isn't always greener. Very important reminder. When you slowly process a difficult emotional problem or a complex grammar rule, step by step, rather than hiding from it in bed, you work through it. Give that one a try. Work through.
Work through. Awesome job.
And finally, an idiom drawn from sports, meaning that the power to act is now yours. The next move belongs entirely to you. The phrase is, the ball is in your court. Your turn.
The ball is in your court. Say it loud.
Perfect. If you actually said those out loud, you just took a physical step in breaking your own mental loop. You're already retraining your brain to participate rather than just observe.
It is all about action.
So what does this all mean when we pull the pieces together?
It's a big picture to look at.
It is, but looking at the complete architecture of this journey, it becomes incredibly clear that successfully learning English is not just a matter of superior memorization or brute force grammar drills.
Not at all.
It is fundamentally about the micro choices you make when your mind desperately wants to retreat into the dark. It is about intentionally planting those small seeds of acknowledgement instead of letting the evolutionary weeds of self-doubt hijack your amygdala.
And it requires the self-awareness to draw your two circles, recognizing that the vast majority of your daily anxiety belongs in the uncontrollable outer ring.
And having the quiet courage to move your focus from the noisy street back to the calm park.
Exactly.
It is about abandoning punishing expectations and setting clear, kind goals. Taking that 20-minute daily step to turn on the headlights so you can navigate the fog.
Because you do not have to be a perfect student to master this language.
You really don't. You just have to keep moving slowly in a more compassionate direction. The psychological tools have been laid out for you. The ball is in your court.
And as you decide how to play that ball, consider this final thought. We spend hundreds of hours agonizing over the complex vocabulary we haven't yet memorized, or the advanced sentence structures we stumble over. But what if the biggest, most formidable barrier to your fluency isn't the English language at all? What if the true barrier is the negative, hypercritical internal story you have been secretly rehearsing in your mind every single day? Change the mechanism of that story, rewrite the narrative of your own capability, and you might be shocked at how quickly the language follows.